Hello and welcome back to Suzerain. Let's talk to the Chief Justice. The administration had been working day and night on the overwhelming amount of issues that were facing the country. Departments sent several documents which required my signature so they could start working on the new decisions that were taken. That's a very politician way of saying a lot of things that mean nothing. After I signed dozens of them, I closed my eyes to relax for a moment. It's like, this sort of sentence is kind of stuff I write in one of my university assignments when I have to write a set amount of words, and I just kind of don't care. Another long day. Even though I really wished to leave the palace for the day, Lucian had earlier told me that the Chief Justice wanted to speak to me. We planned to meet in my office in 30 minutes. I waited for him, wondering what subject he would raise. No. I should be sober. Take a moment to relax. Stretched out my arms and looked out the window. Thousands of shimmering lights in the whole sword skyline were mesmerizing. Suddenly I hear a knock on the door. It was Lucian. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Lucian. I'm sorry that I couldn't explain the situation to you in detail earlier, sir. The Chief Justice insisted on seeing you this evening. I do not know what he has to say, but it will probably be about the new constitution. He will be coming in shortly with Judge Mr. Garaci to the meeting. Heron Garaci, who's currently serving as a justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah. We shouldn't take them lightly. I think he's here to test the waters. I agree, they will probably try to get you to their side. We should... Oh, there were 3 knocks on the door. It's code. Lucian checked his watch. He looked rather worried. Oh, they got here earlier. Lucian doesn't like that. Lucian the robot, Lucian the Terminator does not like that. Olivia opened the doors. Chief Justice Orso Hawker and Judge Heron Garaci entered the room. Good evening, Mr. President. It's great to see you. Evening. Welcome, Justice Garaci and Chief Justice Hawker. Good to see you indeed. Orso gestured at the sofa in the office. May I? Please. We all took our seats on 2 opposite sofas and made ourselves comfortable. How are your first couple of months, Mr. President? I hope you're faring well. To be honest, it was a rough start. Couldn't imagine, yet I think you're doing a good job so far. Considering all that's happening around us with the shootings at the palace and soldiers on our borders, you let out a deep sigh. It's a troubling time. We appreciate your concerns. So, you probably know why we are here. Yes, with all that's going on right now, I don't think this is the time to make constitutional reforms, is what he's gonna say. You're here to stop the new constitution, is what they're gonna do. We're only here to tell you that the Supreme Court does not approve of the attempt to change the constitution. Well, with all due respect, the Constitution needs to be updated, sir. I'm sure you are well aware of the public demand on, and our circumstances. Is that so? I see that you are the one who is not aware of our actual circumstances. You want to make a weaker Constitution in the midst of problems from both inside and outside. Even if your proposal passes the Assembly, I will make sure it will not pass the Supreme Court. That much is clear. What does he mean by... So, actually, this is very telling about his political... views, because a weaker constitution is not a constitution. So no, let me restart. A weak constitution is, in his mind, is a constitution in which there are a lot of ways for a lot of different people to or how am I going to phrase this? He believes that a weak constitution is a constitution in which there aren't ways for individuals or some people to sort of take control and direct the country without necessarily having to consult with everyone. I think that is a weak constitution because I think that a constitution where you can do those things is a weak constitution because that is a constitution that leaves itself open to exploitation. I believe that in many ways the United States Constitution, for example, is pretty weak. It has some issues with it. And although it is, it was the model for a lot of really good constitutions after that. Even if your proposal passes the Assembly, I'll make sure it will not pass the Supreme Court. That much is clear. You haven't even seen the proposal yet. You haven't even seen the proposal yet, Mr. Hawker. Isn't it too soon to be against it? You think I live in a rock, Mr. President? I know what goes on. Yet you, Mr. President, seem to be only partially informed about the current situation. Please let us explain the reasons of our stance. Oh, please, explain. We are protecting the Constitution because it works, Mr. President. It is efficient, and it gives you the authority to lead the nation with swift decisions. Scotland has more important problems and threats that we should face right now. Instead of nitpicking about some paragraphs of the Constitution, we have a potential war within our borders. Also signaled Heron with his hand to let him speak instead. Mr. President, I know that you are a busy man, so I'll make this quick. We all know that Swedish security forces found stashes of Rombergian weaponry in the hideouts of Bludish separatists. KA-74s are roaming inside Swordland at this moment. As much as Rumberg poses a direct threat, now it's clear that they are also intervening in our country and weaponizing our minorities against us. It's not unprecedented to think that the Bloods will start their terror again with their new toys. Not to mention the fights that broke out between the left and the right wing under the shooting of Bernard Surcas. Communists are rising with the support of United Contana. The chaos is imminent for Swordland. And sadly, we don't see the administration taking the necessary precautions. You said you will not focus on military during your term. Under current circumstances, that cannot be tolerated at any costs. Yeah, that's the thing. We actually might need to do the military thing. Yeah, he is actually talking in terms of a you know, judicial coup here. Like, he's not saying I'm going to take over the country. He's saying I'm going to, or he's saying I will not tolerate this, so I will fight you. I, being the Supreme Court, will direct national policy, which is not his place. The court has no jurisdiction over these matters. Aren't we all part of the state, Mr. President? We are all responsible if Swordland fails to overcome these threats. But regardless of that, are we also aware that the armed Bludish separatists have direct connections with the Workers' Party of Bludia? Heavy IRA energy coming from Bludia right now. Everybody knows that. You know what that means? Do you remember the vote of the Workers' Party in the last election? The only reason they are not in the assembly is because of the electoral threshold. They have gotten quite big. They are clearly getting outside help, and their connections to the paramilitary Bludish force cannot be denied. And all of a sudden, the reformists are trying to decrease the electoral threshold so that the Bludish separatists can be legitimized in the assembly to achieve their aims of independence. You think that's Mr. Richter's intention? I suspect his intentions are grander, but I wish the only issues were the Bludish terrorists and Rumberg. Reformers suggested changes would also bring the communists who are backed by United Contana into the assembly. Do you see the pattern yet? He's saying essentially that Richter, the reformist, is trying to weaken the country, which is kind of a weak line of attack against this guy, in my opinion, because it's like it presupposes that that the inclusion of more voices into the assembly is inherently weakening the country. If these people want out of the country, if they want an independent state, right? Wouldn't their, you know, forcefully occupying their territory in itself also be weakening the nation, because you have essentially this insurgent population inside of your country? And how would you, like Orso Hawker, how would you solve this issue of these people that you clearly find undesirable inside the borders without, you know, how would you solve this problem without giving in to their demands? I'm going to assume that his solution involves a lot of police, a lot of crackdowns, and, you know, a lot of repression. And I'm not about that. I don't think that's the solution. I think that's a way of like sidestepping the problem and sort of suppressing, or sort of putting like a ball or like a dome over it, like containing it, and not really solving the issue. The real way of solving the issue is to make them or help, not make them, but like to encourage them, I guess, to like us, to give them what they need. You're saying the reformists are working for the foreign powers. Haven't you been briefed by a security team? Maybe you should suspect them as well. We should take the necessary measures against communist and bluish plots, as well as increasing our military budget against possible conflict with Rumberg, and of course, not fall into the traps of the reformists by listening to their demands. They are clearly plotting to weaken the president and our whole administration in order to exploit the situation, which brings us to some very important information that we have. It's definitely something you need to hear, and it can change absolutely everything. With all due respect, Mr. President, I think this is getting slightly ridiculous. Let the Chief Justice talk, Lucian. Of course, sir. The person in question is Mr. Franz Richter himself, the leader of the reformists. We have enough information to infer that he has ties with Arcadia. Arcadia is aggressively growing their influence around the world, and now we have Mr. Richter coming up with these ridiculous demands for a new constitution amidst the chaotic period in Swordland. He's saying he's an American spy. All the pieces seem to fit perfectly. This is why the Supreme Court will be doing what it takes to stop these reforms and preserve the Constitution. Very convenient, like, that all this stuff is, you know, popping up and all that. Very convenient that, you know, Bizarro Third Reich Iceland here is up in our shit. How would you know that Mr. Richter has ties to Arcadia? We all know that he's been in Arcadia many times, because it's been documented, but what would you think if he has been making hidden flights to the country? He has been hiding his flights to Arcadia. He was. He's been spotted in a hotel in Arcadia last year, where they held the conference on economic development in volatile regions, right around the time he started to influence the masses into believing that our constitution is the reason everything is bad. His trip was not documented, nor was he an official guest of the conference. We believe that he had a meeting with President Walker behind closed doors. I also have a couple more photos of him that were taken in Arcadia in different cities. One is from a couple of months back, again, none of it is documented. He also attended another event in Lesbia last week. The Arcadian Minister of Foreign Affairs was there too. How did you find out about this? Many Solis were already following his leads for quite some time, Mr. President. I cannot give away their identities, but I can give you the evidence. He handed me a small file. It contained official documents from the Swedish border guard with highlighted dates that showed no trace of Franz Richter's name. There were clear photos of him that were taken in the conference in Arcadia, as well as remarks by lesbian and Arcadian citizens who claimed to have seen him with Arcadian businessmen around the same time. Well, the latter there is circumstantial. There's also an... also, I'm not a lawyer. I don't actually really know what circumstantial means. I've just played Phoenix, right? There's also an official transcript of one of his speeches where he claimed to be in Benfi on the dates of the conference in Arcadia, where he was spotted. Lucian skimmed through the documents with skepticism, which slowly turned into surprise. They seem to be real. Of course they are real, Mr. Galat. They seem to suggest that Arcadia is behind the reformists. Their demands will only benefit Arcadia. They want us to have a weaker administration while we face all these threats. This is clearly a plot against Swordland. I bet Rumberg is part of their plan too. This cannot be a coincidence that they are weaponizing our minorities against us around the same time. Now you understand the reason of our current stance, and also our suspicions about your advisors, who clearly have not given you this vital information. Lucian gave him a sharp look. We appreciate the information, Mr. Hawker, but I advise against jumping to conclusions right away. We still need to check the information. There is not much to think or check. This is clearly an emergency. In such cases, the Constitution gives the President the right to use his emergency powers. If we work together, you can be sure that the Supreme Court will not block your declaration of emergency. You want me to declare an emergency? Of course, we cannot wait for the process of the Assembly to take care of these issues. You must exercise your presidential powers for a fast and effective solution, which means you might need to suspend parts of the Constitution to give more authority to our security forces to deal with these issues. We must officially investigate Mr. Richter as well. Okay, Michael Flynn. You can devise a strong security decree, if you can base it on the Articles 57 and 58, which gives the President the right to suspend parts of the Constitution to deal with the national security threats. You can directly bypass the Assembly in such a situation. The only thing you need is the Supreme Court to allow the emergency to be declared, and you have our word on that. Sir, I think this is going a bit too far. We shouldn't escalate things so fast. Yeah, I agree, this is actually insane. Mr. President, why don't we talk in private, only the two of us? We can devise a plan together. I know how we can use the Constitution to our advantage. It would be more effective if Mr. Galad and Mr. Garachi leave the room before we discuss it. Sir, I advise against it. Oh, I want to see what he has to say, but I also think this is, like, it's fucked to, like, do that. Oh, there must be a way. No, there isn't. Like, I wanna get evidence of this guy. Like, he's gonna do something illegal now. He's going to tell me to do something illegal or something. I think he's going to... Oh my god. What do I do? I hope it... No, it can't lock me into this if I ask him to leave us alone. I'm sorry to say that we won't be cooperating, Mr. Walker, or could you leave us alone? I so really want to hear what he has to say, because if he gives me vital information about what I assume to be an impending coup right now, for some reason, I've just suddenly become very paranoid about that. If he gives me vital information about that, I can use that to neutralize the effectiveness of it, right? But if I... Like, I need to play... I want to try to play both sides. I don't want to do the thing with him. I want to... But someone is gonna get mad about me meeting with this guy behind closed doors, right? Oh my god. I wish I could save, but you can't save scum in this game. It's impossible. Could you leave us alone with Mr. Hawkery, gentlemen? Oh my god. Lucian stood up and Orso gave him a smile. Heron paid respect and left with Lucian, leaving me and Orso alone. So, Mr. President, if you stop the Reform Committee meetings immediately and focus on the real threats, I'll guarantee you we'll manage the reformers together. You must eliminate these threats, both internal and external. An emergency act can help you do that. We cannot trust anyone in the administration either. Tell me more about the details of an emergency act. According to Article 58, if public security and order are seriously disturbed and endangered within the Republic of Sordland, the President of Sordland may modify or suspend parts of the Constitution subject to confirmation by the Supreme Court to determine the validity of the declaration of a state of emergency. Can't the Assembly simply revoke it? I think I've actually made a mistake. I think the game is now pigeonholing me into agreeing with this guy, but I'm not I don't know. According to the Constitution, only the President of the Grand National Assembly can revoke the emergency after it's declared. That is correct. However, as long as your party is in line, they will never have a majority to revoke it immediately, so no, they cannot simply revoke it. Which parts of the Constitution can we modify or suspend? This is kind of a grey area. The Constitution states that no state shall, in the case of a national emergency, modify or suspend the rights of freedom defined in Article 100 of the Constitution, unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. But we are not under invasion. That is correct. However, the section where it says that states that actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay can be up to interpretation. We are definitely under such imminent danger because of Rumburg. Not to mention United Contana's support for communist coup in Sordland, as well as Franz Richter's involvement with Arcadia, which is definitely connected to all these problems. And of course, that is up to the Supreme Court to decide, so that is not a problem. We may need increased surveillance on our political rivals to find out about their connections and plots. Bringing unlimited detention would allow you to arrest people as necessary, such as Mr. Richter. That might be going a bit too far. I disagree. You already know about the coup plots and foreign-backed terrorists in Sordland, and a lot of these issues overlap with the reformist agenda of creating a weaker constitution. I suspect Franz Richter is involved with many of these organizations. He may even be working together with Rumburg, and they really do pose an existential threat to Sordland. Let's talk about the details of an emergency act. You must first justify the emergency act. We need to have at least one target that we can blame the conflicts on. They will be declared as a national security threat, and this will allow us to prosecute their members or people connected to them. Man, all of this is starting to sound a little bit familiar to me. There are obvious connections between the Bludia separatists and Rumburg, and the separatists have clear connections to the Workers' Party of Bludia. They should be declared a national security threat, and the party should be banned. There's not enough evidence to connect the separatists with the Workers' Party. Come on, President, we all know that what they stand for. Bloods will be Bloods. They all want to establish their own country in Bergia. But let's not forget about the socialists. But youth must also be our target. They are plotting a communist revolution in Swordsland with clear funding from United Contana, and now they took the streets after the death of Bernard Surcas. There are already clashes and protests on the streets which must be dealt with before it gets out of hand. We can also justify an action against the young swords. After all, they started all this mess with the commies. And they killed a man right near the Maroon Palace. That can be considered a declaration of war against the state itself. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, this guy isn't a fascist. He's an authoritarian. A regular old authoritarian. And a lot of people get these words confused. Fascists are authoritarian, and not all authoritarians are fascists. You also have communist authoritarians, like Lenin, for example, or Stalin, or Mao. And you also have, free market, classic market liberal authoritarians as well. That can be considered a declaration of war against the state itself. I need to think about this. I don't think there's much to think, but let's talk about how we can deal with them. We should eliminate the threats on our streets first. The police should have the authority to disperse crowds as necessary. We also have to keep the streets clean from the socialist thugs and bloody separatists. We should give more authority to the police regarding their use of force. They should be able to stop and frisk if necessary, especially in brutish neighborhoods. No. No, none of these. Hold up. They should be able to search properties. I just want information. I don't want to actually agree to anything. Without warrants, and wiretapping should be permissible beyond its current limits. They'll also need to be able to act swiftly. If the person is suspected of crimes against the national security of Swordsland, the police should be able to detain them without trial. We cannot allow them proper trials anyway. I think the detention without trial is too much. We're fighting against national security threats here. These are terrorists. We need extreme measures in extreme situations, and there are also the external threats we must face. Rumburg has acted hostile in the past, and now they're arming the Bloods. We must cut all ties with them. They need to be embargoed. Their citizens must be barred from entering Swordsland. This guy is insane. We must erase all their influence in Swordsland and weaken their trade and give them a message. We shouldn't escalate the situation with the Rumburgs too fast. They are the ones who are spitting on us. They already escalated the situation, and of course we need to prepare our army. In any case, they have a very powerful military, and they seem to have plans on our soil. There are these... Then there are the superpowers. Both are influencing our nation to be in their spheres. It seems Arcadia already bought Mr. Richter, and possibly is behind all this, and United Contana is funding Swordish communists against our state. But we cannot bow down to the superpowers. Swordsland must stand tall. We will not bow to them, Mr. Walker. I know we won't. They tried to divide Swordsland before, but we came out stronger after the Civil War. We'll come out of this stronger again. I do hope so, Mr. President. It will all be up on you. Orso looked at the clock in the office and then outside the window. Mr. President, I've taken too much of your time already. I'll be reaching out again after you dissolve the Reform Committee and end the pursuits of reform. I cannot promise you that, Mr. Walker. We do not have a deal. Proceed with reforms. Thank God. I actually got to... yeah, I like that the game there was like, hey, this is your final... Like, this is your point of no return. With, like, square brackets. It wasn't like, you know... It's trying to make that clear. I like that. Was this all a joke to you? No, Mr. Walker, I just wanted to learn about your intentions. He looked at me with anger. I see. Good luck with your reforms, Mr. President. You made a big mistake. Quickly got off the couch and moved towards the door. Don't walk on me, Mr. Hawker. You already did that, Mr. President. Have a good evening. Oh, yes, I like this. This is fun. Let's read the news before we hit continue and see. Swedish politician shot dead. Yeah, that was Surcas. We've seen that. They're afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. That's what I quoted, right? Millennialist anthems played from loudspeakers all along the Freedom Avenue as Swedish citizens of various ethnicities stood shoulder to shoulder, many of them in tears. Others leaned out of windows over balcony railings to watch the procession. President Reign gave a unifying message to all Swordsland by attending the funeral. He paid his respects to Surcas and met with his close relatives. Reign also made an emotional speech that touched thousands of attendees. He finished the speech with a quote from Surcas. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They're afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Which is a really good quote. President Reign's last farewell to Bernard Surcas. Let's see, Swordsland today says, shown great respect and grace by letting Red youth members enter the funeral to give their final goodbyes to their fellow traveler. Also the name of the publisher of the game, I believe. This show of compassion is what the country deserves at this period of uncertainty. The new era of the Reign administration indicates that the divisions of the country might soon be healed. What does Lachlan Time say? Orso Hawker has been spotted entering the Maroon Palace. Historically, Mr. Hawker does not frequent the palace unless it's for official business, and this was certainly an unplanned visit. Clearly, there might be something he wants out of this. Our speculation is that it has something to do with the reforms, so more to come on this later. Welfare issues of Narbel, okay. This seems complicated. The Radical. The worker party of Bludia will protest the electoral bill, the one that, yeah, that sort of eliminates their ability to get involved. And then Geopolitico says Solent condemns closure. Yep. Condemn the closure of the consulate. Okay, let's move on to the next day and see what happens. Or not the next day, but next oh, Trials of Democracy. Oh boy. The next chapter, rather, I think. Oh, it's not the next chapter, actually. I wonder what the chapter is going to be like. I wonder how long this game is as well. I hope it isn't too short, because I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it seems like, yeah, people on YouTube are liking it as well. Like people in the comments and stuff. The likes and the you know, all that. Thank you so much for the response, by the way. I should say that more often. It's been really good. Barbecue with Frank. I like that. I like barbecue. It doesn't seem that Oh yeah, also someone asked me if I could do like 45-minute videos, because I have a tendency to like 45-minute videos and then slow down what I'm doing, because I have a tendency to speed through things. I talk fast sometimes. I like I'm on, you know, crack, and I yeah, stuff like that. And I say a lot of things. Sometimes I speak faster than my brain can like think, which is admittedly not very fast. But no, I won't make 45-minute videos usually, because my throat, I have issues. I can't speak much, which is ironic, because of what I do and because of how much I love the sound of my own voice. Let's see, news. School poisoning in Rebel. Oh boy, police have arrested the principal of a high school in Rebel in southern Bergia, where 12 students died after eating a free meal laced with pesticide. This is some Junji Ito shit. Holy fuck, this is horrible. Between 15 and 17 died after eating a lunch of local dish of zabla. How the pesticide ended up in the food. This must be a racist crime, right? This is in the like the blue dish place. Like this must be a this must be like a racist hate crime, right? Time for women to stand up. Hell yeah, dude. Women of Solent have always been under pressure by the unequal society and the system of discrimination that was built by old men who only knew about war, said Katarina Horton in a women's rally that was held in Holsor yesterday. She is a labor leader, politician, and activist of Bludish descent. I want to get more current spokesperson of the labor union of Solent. I want to get more involved with these kinds of people. You know, like as I said earlier, like neutralize their, or not neutralize their energy, but absorb it into my movement, right? It's time for Solent to realize that we have to respect every individual, regardless of their sex, and strive to become an advanced civilization. Women have long been pushed to the corners of the social and political life. I agree. A new campaign was started all over Solent to establish a framework for women's rights. Soldiers League of Women is organizing rallies with the support of Minister of Education Chiara Walda and Member of Assembly Katarina Horton. Everybody's equal. She's an academic is the word, and politician, who serves as the Minister of Education, Technology and Research of Solent. Oh. And she's in the USP. Cool. Taught philosophy and political sciences in several major universities. Cool. Questioning Solist education. The new unveiled SEPA education performance report unveiled sad reality of Solent's abysmal status in comparison to many countries. Solent was rated 39 out of the 68 nations that were assessed by the OMEC organization. The primary gauge of the quality of education is made from the sample 16-year-olds from each nation and their capacity of fields like mathematics, history, chemistry, and many others. Minister Walda often mentioned the gaps in the system in her assembly debates before she joined the cabinet. This is also supported by one of our editors, a professor from Holsted State. Yeah, we should. It's annoying because we need to focus on healthcare, right? Because that's our promise. But I want to focus on education as well, because that is also really important. Upcoming government budget changes. President Anton Rein's first internal economic challenge lies ahead, and we will see if he can prove his capabilities as a leader who can think ahead. Diverting funds to certain government branches has always been a point of contention of any leader. Okay, so this is our budget, okay. Van Horten blames Valksland for the missing fishing vessel. Oh no. Guys, don't fight. I want to be friends with both of you. Okay, let's call that there, because we're at the 30-minute mark, and let's have a barbecue next episode. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.